The last time we touched base with Brielle Brooks, the daughter of Blade, and her temporary guardian Dracula, she was in pretty rough shape. Dracula told Brielle that she was the only one who could stop her father's attempt to take over the world. But to do so, she would have to kill him. That didn't sit well with Brielle, who hasn't had much experience as a superhero, who's barely gotten to know her father, and who doesn't want to do any of this. Brielle ran from the Sanctum Sanctorum, she fought some vampires, and then met Daredevil. All Hornhead cautioned her that sometimes the only way to save the people you love is to keep them from becoming monsters. Blade would have to be stopped. Although Brielle did not like this news, she kind of accepted that this was the job. Dracula found her, and they were on their way back to the Sanctum. Brielle called her mom and got her voicemail. She explained that if being a hero meant killing her dad, then she wasn't going to be able to do it. Which is when an army of vampires surrounded her and Dracula. A psychic assault by Blade then laid Brielle low, and that's where we pick up with issue 3. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown's coverage of Blood Hunt episode 20, Brielle's Inner Strength. Opening the issue up, we get an explanation for how last issue ended, actually, which is nice because Blade showing up in a transformed vampire mist body was super weird and unexpected. Dracula even calls the character Varney, now that the secret is out, which does feel weird, but I'm going to save that for the end of the review. He warns Varney to leave Brielle alone, but Varney says that he means her no harm. He just wants to show her what it would mean to rule the world as father and daughter. We then go inside of Brielle's mind. She's back at her high school, although it's a high school made of an imposing, spooky castle. You know how in dreams you can, know intellectually that something isn't real, but inside the dream, that's what it is? That's the fact of the matter? Same kind of thing here with Brielle. Brielle walks through her creepy castle school until she looks into a classroom. Relieved, she rushes inside and tries to hug her father, Blade. He turns into mist, dodging the hug to reappear behind her. This shocks her. This is not her pops. Brielle reaches for the sword that is normally strapped to her back, and it's gone. Her father smiles. In our castle, we have no use for blades. The only weapon she needs is in her blood. A wave of bloodlust washes over Brielle, consuming her. Through this, there's also a desperate need for her father's approval. This is your inheritance, Blade says. The world is made of prey, and you are a predator. Brielle's two closest friends, Rebecca and Jaden, appear in the dreamscape. Her fingers elongate into talons. Her jaw stretches with long teeth, and Brielle looks at them. Her eyes are blood red. In reality, while this is happening, Dracula is busy fighting Varney's hordes of disposable vampires in order to keep Brielle's body safe. The fighting is so easy, in fact, that Dracula is actually insulted by this lack of dedicated attention. The pile of vampire bodies at his feet then begins to shift. It slops together, creating a monstrous figure of meat, blood, and teeth. Two other smaller monsters form beneath it, and Dracula braces himself. Maybe this thing will be a more worthy adversary. Inside Brielle's mind, she leaps at her friends. She smashes Jaden into a wall, but then she stops. She drops back, her mind fighting against the demand for her blood, the demand of her father, who explains what things should be. He heard the phone call that she made to her mother last issue. He heard her say that she isn't a hero, and she isn't. Brielle is a hunter like him, and they rule the night. Attempts to deny this primal nature, to deny her true power and where it comes from, will only torment her. Brielle feels this, and she curls up into a tight ball on the floor. Our kind will always win, Blade says. We will outhunt and outlast our prey. Two vampire spirits, I guess, rise up around Rebecca and Jaden. They flow into their bodies, turning them into vampires. This is the only way you can save those you care about, Blade says. They can thrive, but only if you join me in our kingdom. Blade holds out his hand to Brielle. She stands up, staring at it. In the background, we can hear a ringing sound. It could be the school bell, based upon Brielle's location, or it could be, well, we'll get there. In reality, Dracula continues to fight against Varney's monsters. In his inner monologue, we learn that he has switched from being annoyed at being ignored by Varney to being annoyed by this assault on his leadership. He has fought hordes of challengers over hundreds of years of existence, and he's the only one still standing. Varney's attentions are stretched across the world. His focus is split on the multiple fronts that this battle is being waged on. Dracula's will, however, remains focused. He will have what he wants. He's just waiting on Brielle to figure out what she's doing. After he kills the final monster, stabbing it through the skull without even looking at it, because that's how good he is, Dracula looks at Brielle's prone form. By her hand is her cell phone, and it's ringing. Look at that! That's our ringing sound from earlier. I love it. Within the dreamscape, Blade makes his final argument. If Brielle sides with Dracula, then all of her loved ones will die. Or she can stop pretending to be a hero and side with him, and they can rule the world together as father and daughter, blah, 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 blah. We've all seen Star Wars, you nerd, we get it. Brielle, to begin, agrees with him. She isn't a hero. If she was, then she would have stopped all of this already, but maybe Daredevil is right. If Rebecca and Jaden were here, if they did ever become vampires, they would hate that she allowed it to happen. She can't watch her friends and loved ones become monsters just because she's too scared to fight. Brielle turns, looking at Blade. Dad, I love you too much to stand with you. Rage now fills Blade's demeanor. You think your cute little speeches mean anything? My power is the power of the Eternal! Blade transforms into the Man-Bat-esque Varney form, shattering the dream world around them. You could have been greater than any hero, and instead you choose to cling to the dying light! For a moment, Brielle is filled with fear, and why not? It feels like even her friends are closing in around her, coming after her. But then she hears a familiar sound. Bring. Her phone rings again. But given our school setting, it might as well be the final bell. Now that she understands what's going on, the school illusion crumbles around her. Brielle starts to run as the world seems to come apart. As she does, we can hear her mother on the phone. Saffron begs for her daughter not to leave her. She doesn't need Brielle to be a hero or an avenger or to save her father. She just needs her. Wake up and choose, Brielle. I trust you, I love you, and I'm proud of you. Just let me hear your voice. In reality, Dracula props Brielle up with one arm. In the other hand is her cell phone, its screen shattered. The burning, dusting ashes of the vampire horde billow around them. Brielle knows now that Varney was trying to trick her. Her mother's voice cut through Dracula's manipulations and Varney's lies. She had been so caught up in what she couldn't do, like kill her father or join him, that she'd forgotten about the things that she can do. But in her mother's voice, Brielle heard someone who knew her, who trusted her, and she wanted to fight for that belief. As she finally rouses, Brielle snatches up the phone. She apologizes for leaving. She says that something's wrong with her dad, but Saffron cuts her off. It's okay, she says. We'll talk this over when it's over. I'm your mother, Brielle. I am scared with you. I'm not going to lie about that. Just promise me that whatever decision you make, you do it because it feels right to you. Do that, and I can deal with being scared. Brielle tells her mom that she loves her, and wipes tears from her eyes. Saffron says the same. Dracula then offers Brielle a hand up. I assume you've made your decision. It's a statement, not a question on his part. Brielle tucks her phone into her jacket pocket. You ain't gonna boss me around? Dracula says there's no need. Brielle finally understands. That thing, Varney, isn't her father. But hearing her mother again makes it a little easier. This is her family they're dealing with. That makes it her responsibility. Dracula offers Brielle her sword back. She takes it and slides it into the sheath on her back. Let's go save my dad. So first off, I gotta say, the end scene conversation between Brielle and her mom, it got me. It got me good. I legit got choked up. It's just so rare to see a superhero relationship between a child and their mother in American comics. Almost everything is dads. Seeing Brielle connect so strongly to her mother and to have that relationship be a loving, supportive one is just so refreshing in the world of American superhero comics. It makes total sense for the character, given that Blade has largely been absent from Brielle's life until very recently. Brielle should have a stronger relationship with her mom, and I love seeing that idea continued here, and it makes sense given that author Danny Lore wrote both the Bloodline miniseries and this Dracula miniseries. I also like that Brielle's motivation here isn't to save the world, and honestly it isn't even to save her father. These are super big concepts, and they feel totally outside the scope of what most people can accomplish, right? What can one person do against a vampire army that's taking over the world and that can stop the Avengers? Plus, Brielle is still very new to the world of superheroics. Yes, she's had a few fights and she's fought a couple vampires on her own, but she's never faced anything on this scale before. But when Varney threatens her best friends, Rebecca and Jaden, Brielle finally gets it. She can't kill her father to save the world, but she can do it to save her friends and her mom. She can protect people. That is super character specific. It makes total sense for her. I dig it, and I always like a character who comes from a place of protection as opposed to vengeance. There are also a ton of neat, smaller details that I really like in this issue. Like when Brielle first finds Blade inside of the school, and he says that they have no need for blades here. That's a great double entendre, hinting at the fact that Varney has possessed her. I like the ringing of her cell phone doubling as the ringing of the school bell inside of the dream. That fits perfectly. I like Dracula using the phone to snap her out of whatever spell Varney had cast on her. That is surprisingly understanding of him, especially given that this miniseries has really driven home the point that Dracula's inhuman. As I pointed out at the start of this issue, I'm also really glad that they explained exactly how issue 2 ended, because cracking open this issue inside of the dreamscape, it really did throw me for a loop, just like seeing Monster Mistblade did at the end of issue 2. So getting an explanation for how that scene led into this scene was really nice and smart, and it smoothed over my confusion almost immediately. And artistically, I think that this issue works well. Vincenzo Carratu does a really good job on Brielle's dreamscape, making it something that is both recognizable, like a reality, but still surreal, like a dream. His acting on the characters is really well done, his action sequences are dynamic and powerful, and the art is well balanced between the bloody violence of Dracula and basically the characters just talking in Brielle's dreamscape. All of that now said, I also do have a bevy of problems with this. First off, both Brielle and Dracula no longer refer to Blade as Blade in this issue. Both of them call him Varney, despite the fact that neither one of them appeared to know that he was the bad guy before this issue happened. Sure, the Varney reveal has happened from a meta standpoint, both over in Black Panther and in Blood Hunt proper, but neither of these characters were present for those revelations. Brielle should not even know who Varney is, much less know that he's possessed her father. Dracula, I could see guessing at Varney's involvement, but Brielle should absolutely have no context for this guy. Tying into this idea is the fact that Brielle never once refers to Blade in this issue as Pops, which is her personal affectation to him. The one time I did it is because I put that in the script. Throughout this issue, he is always referred to as Dad or my father, but never Pops. And author Danny Lore made sure to bring up that Brielle called him that in previous issues. This is a super minor complaint. I realize that I am picking at nits here, but this issue was dedicated to Brielle and her relationships with her friends, with her mom, with her pops. So seeing it mishandled is incredibly frustrating for me. Secondly, we still get no explanation as to why Brielle is the only one who can stop Blade/Varney. We've been told that, as a member of Blade's bloodline, Brielle's the only person who can kill him. You're the only one who can do it, kid. But we still have no one addressing the fact that Blade is possessed. He is not evil, he's possessed by something that is evil. And apparently now Brielle and Dracula both know that he's possessed by Varney, so why don't they care? I had hoped going into this issue that a confrontation between Brielle and Blade would reveal to her that he's Varney, and he'd be like, here's how I possessed your father, and here's how I'm going to take over the world. And maybe their confrontation would reveal like a secret weakness that he has, or show that Blade is still in there somewhere, and that only Brielle's the one who can save him, even if everyone else wants her to kill him. But instead, this issue ignores all of those routes, basically just sticking to the same plot hole-ridden story that we started with. Brielle's the only one who can kill Blade, she just has to make the decision to do it. Why? Because the plot demands it. Why does the plot demand it? Because that's what the authors have decided. Finally, and this is totally a personal nitpick, I get this is absolutely a me thing, Dracula doesn't do crap in this issue. Sure, he does defend Brielle, and he does get some pretty cool action sequences, and that blood monster that Carratu designed looks absolutely sweet. It is the kind of thing that would have been right at home in like a Resident Evil game as like a mini boss, and I love that. But this is Dracula. He's a master strategist, he's super powered, he's the king of vampires, and his only role in this story is to babysit Brielle until she feels like getting involved in the plot. When he complained about Varney's lack of attention on him, I flooping felt that because he's right to feel that. Where is the plan to incapacitate Dracula? Varney feels Doctor Strange, the Avengers, and the Midnight Suns, but not Dracula? What a absolute punk-ass bitch. No swearing. I could, if I wanted to, explain away this decision by focusing on Varney's goal, right? He isn't trying to rule the earth as the king of the vampires, after all. He's trying to become a dark force-powered god. He wants to become a cosmic vampire. So maybe, for Varney, Dracula and his little kingdom just don't matter. After all, why should Dracula oppose him? Varney ascends to godhood, leaves the earth to feed on the cosmos, and Dracula can have earth. Who cares? That should work fine. But we aren't told that's the plan, or that's even how Varney looks at it. Varney doesn't even so much as blink in Dracula's direction in this story, which means that calling this miniseries Blood Hunt: Dracula is a complete fake out from a selling standpoint. This isn't Dracula's story. It's Brielle's. And Dracula is just along for the ride. I would guess that Marvel called this mini Dracula because there is more brand recognition in that name than Bloodline, the Daughter of Blade, but I hate that kind of thing. How are you supposed to build Brielle into her own character who can sell a 3-issue miniseries if she can't exist outside the shadow of another more noticeably famous male character like Dracula or Blade? First, she's getting by on her dad's name. Notice that her own miniseries is called Bloodline: Daughter of Blade. Now she's getting by on Drax? When does she just get to stand alone as Brielle? Probably when somebody decides to give her a unique, notable name that's cool and catchy and all her own, and we haven't gotten there yet. And that also frustrates me. As a dramatic story that is focused on Brielle and her emotions going into Blood Hunt, I did really enjoy the series. I know that I've been complaining pretty vehemently, and that's because I feel the hate really strongly, but I did enjoy this. I actually liked this miniseries a lot better than the actual Bloodline miniseries that Marvel published back in 2023, so I do think that author Danny Lore has really improved as an author in my mind. Sure, I had some logistical problems, but the core of this story, Brielle and her growth as a hero, I thought was really well done. Whatever she does go on to do in Blood Hunt issue 5, I am here for it. I just wanted to be saving her dad, and I don't think that's a route that has been set up at all. And maybe they're saving it so that it's some kind of like last-minute plot twist in Blood Hunt issue 5, but again, Blood Hunt issue 5's got a lot of things that it needs to do by the time it comes out, and I don't think it's going to have enough time to do it. So I'm getting a little nervous about the size of this narrative and one issue to go for the main story. That said, our next episode will cover the final issue of the Strange Academy miniseries. Thank you once again for your patience and for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this episode of Breakdown, please make sure to hit that like button, and if you are not subscribed to the show, then click on that as well. I love getting feedback, and I would really appreciate it if you did so. If you have any questions, concerns, or would like to suggest a comic or a series to me, Breakdown can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and on a variety of podcast platforms, with links in the description for this episode below, as well as the email cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Thank you for your time and attention.